Consider this, 90% of California's wetlands have been lost to development. Our wetlands are vital ecological sponges along our shoreline. So when hundreds of acres of wetlands got restored recently near Huntington Beach, environmentalists popped open the champagne. But as Orange County reporter Roger Cooper tells us, a last-minute setback dampened the celebration.
It is 3 o'clock in the morning in late August on the shore at Huntington Beach. A small but dedicated group is gathered. People who don't mind losing a little sleep to witness something that hasn't happened in over a century.
First, let me say I wasn't alone. There were between 80 and 100 people there, all doing the same thing I was, which is holding our breath until the water flowed to cheer.
At low tide, earth movers move in. They plow through the last few feet of sand that separate the Pacific from the Bolsa Chica Wetlands Restoration Project. Then, as the tide rises, it begins to happen. After more than 100 years, the ocean is flowing back into Bolsa Chica, replenishing a habitat that used to teem with life. Environmentalists and engineers alike celebrate with a pre-dawn toast of champagne. This site is what this restoration project was all about. For the first time in 107 years, the ocean's waves washing into this inlet, carrying with them the ocean's amazing ability to sustain life. But how did this once rich wetland come to be dry for more than a century? The story starts in 1899. That's when a duck club closed the ocean connection to build ponds for hunting. 50 years later, the duck club was replaced by vast oil drilling operations. Then, if developers had their way, Bolsa Chica would have been the site of thousands of houses and a marina. That's when environmentalists stepped in and waged a 30-year battle to block the project. They won. The ocean began to re-enter the picture in 1997, when money was found to buy the land from its owner, clearing the way for a giant wetlands restoration project to begin. Since then, 7 agencies have spent $147 million scooping out a giant basin, removing 64 oil wells, and building 2 bridges to allow the ocean to flow under Pacific Coast Highway. But after all this work, a key question remained unanswered. How soon would the wildlife return? The answer came almost immediately. Within minutes, living things began to discover the 400 acres of restored wetlands, something that thrills Jack Fancher of U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Now it's connected to the ocean, and some fish came in immediately, so it's like instant payoff. Lots of shorebirds and the fish-eating birds. Brown pelican's been here in large numbers.
Animation shows how the tides now rise and fall twice each day to bathe the wetlands in seawater, providing a nursery for marine life, marsh plants, and migratory birds.
There was actually a group of pelicans just waiting for fish and food, just early breakfast at 5 a.m.
Grace Adams of the Bolsa Chica Conservancy is also spotting the signs of new life.
How exciting it is to see wildlife back again in this area. You see a lot of shorebirds. I saw some skimmers back there earlier.
And there are lots of signs of human life. A steady stream of people with cameras and binoculars now moves along Bolsa Chica's newly created nature trails. Some try to capture it on canvas. Some just stand and take it in. Among them, naturalist Dick Newell.
It's so seldom that we see anything positive happening. It just made me feel extremely good to see it happen, to see people like yourself out here looking at the resource and thinking about it in a new light. People are starting to get excited about things like that. And as that happens, maybe their votes in the future will change, and maybe they'll start to be concerned about the natural world.
The reality that the wetlands are back is enough to leave an old outdoorsman like Jim Lee almost speechless.
You just can't describe it. I'm just in shock. I really am in shock. I would have never imagined it would have turned out like this.
But some last-minute news dampened the celebratory mood. As it turns out, the restoration of Bolsa Chica is not yet complete. The moment you heard The oil company wasn't ready to go ahead and flood their area. What did you say?
Can't repeat that. We were pretty upset.
At the last minute, just before the ocean was to be reintroduced, an oil company notified the project it was not ready to allow flooding of the final 180 acres. Era Energy still operates oil wells here. The gates that were supposed to open to let the ocean in remained closed.
To be less than 2 months from completion and hear that they objected to completing the project made us individually very angry.
The issue was cleanup. In a statement, Era Energy told Life and Times, before introducing seawater into an active oil field, it's prudent to understand the potential environmental risk and impacts. Era says an analysis is underway.
We're urging Era to complete the cleanup in a timely way so we can open those gates.
Asked why the delay came at the last minute, Era said it's a very complex project. We want to make sure we protect the environment, and we want to do it right.
We have engaged them in a discussion now. We're trying to work our way through it, but at this moment, we don't have resolution of those issues. They have not cleaned up the oil field contamination in the remaining part of the project.
Negotiations are continuing, and despite the frustrations, people who have worked on this project are still beaming over what has been accomplished.
This certainly is one of the largest restoration efforts in the state, in the history of the state of California, and this makes Bolsa Chica one of the largest saltwater marshes that exist in the state of California. More than 90% of our wetland population has been eradicated because of development.
And people are still getting to know the wetlands they have back.
I have never spent a day in nature that I didn't see something new. Every single time I come out, I see something new. Now, that may not be a new species, but it might be a new behavior. I see a bird acting differently than what I've ever seen it happen before.
Grace Adams says educating the public will be vital if what's happened at Bolsa Chica is to keep going.
That is very important to us in particular because we really need to nurture the next generation of stewards for this area.
Now we're very much on the threshold of having it done, so that part is a very good feeling.
So mark down the morning of August 24th, 2006 as a milestone for Southern California's ecology. It's the day nature got a second chance.
Well, there is a place in this world for tree huggers.
At the Bolsa Chica wetlands, I'm Roger Cooper for Life and Times.